So yesterday I watched the live action Little Mermaid and I was pleasantly surprised. The movie isn't bad, but I still think it will flop. My IMAX screening had about 10 people in there on opening night. But this movie is a serious step up from the previous live actions, especially Lion King. That movie is atrocious. Jungle Book is clear in my opinion, but watching this movie, you could tell that there was some heart put into it, just enough to make it a decent watch. Halle Bailey is great, as is Melissa McCarthy, but gee whiz was this movie long, and most of the characters were still wasted. Ursula was barely in the movie, and the end sequence was about 10 minutes long. Simply not enough. But there was a lot to like. The under the sea sequence was the best part of the movie for me. It looked pretty great. I'm convinced at least $175 million of the $200 million budget went into it. Every bit that took place under the sea was enjoyable, but it did look a bit off. For about 80% of the time Ariel is under the water, it doesn't even look like she's there. It looks like some dodgy green screen you can use for free. King Triton was alright, but he just didn't really do anything. The character that was wasted the most was Flounder. He was barely in the movie, and even when he was, the design is simply nightmare fuel. Eric was a bit of an NPC, but he did the job. The dialogue was also kind of weird. Most of the time, no one is talking like a normal person, and I couldn't help but laugh for most of the movie. But the real problem with the movie is the length. The original movie is 80 minutes long, and this one is 135. I watched the original this morning in preparation for this video, and to see how they compare, and to be honest, parts of the new movie were just way too drawn out. Don't get me wrong, the original isn't perfectly paced, it goes quite quick in some parts, but it's much better paced than the new one. The runtime is used well in some areas though. In particular, the way it was used to explore Ariel and Eric's relationship a little bit more, the original didn't do a fantastic job at that. In my opinion, the worst part of this movie was that flipping bird. In the original, he was great, but in this one, just painful to watch. I'm not even going to search up the name, that is how little I care for the character. The new movie isn't terrible at all. I actually had a great time and would actually recommend it. However, I do think it fails to capture the magic that the original had, and that's pretty much the same for all of the live action remakes. The problem is, these new movies are live action. That's it. Live action can't do the same things that animation can. Animated movies have no boundaries. They can go in any direction, they can utilize colours and backgrounds to the max, but live action always falls flat. Some things just aren't meant to be live action, and if I'm being honest, The Little Mermaid falls into the category. The Under the Sea song, the best part of the new movie, still looks so bland when compared to the 1989 version. And that is the problem with every single Disney live action remake. They aren't able to live up to the expectations everybody has, and it really just makes me wonder who the movies are actually for. Are they for older fans who have nostalgia for the original? If so, why was so much changed? Are they for newer, younger fans? Most likely yes, but if that's the case, why don't they just come up with original stories and stop milking their old successful ones? I know it's easier said than done, and I couldn't exactly write an Oscar-winning screenplay, but it just seems so lazy and kind of ruins the originals. This video has been more of a ramble on why live-action remakes suck, but The Little Mermaid is pretty good. As I said earlier, I think it's a real step up from the past few, but that really isn't what Disney should be aiming for. I hope it doesn't do badly at the box office, but if it means we never need to see another live-action remake, that's a trade I'll happily take. Disney have sort of redeemed themselves with this movie, and it could be the start of a new, better Disney, but I think we all know that's waffle. Either way, I think we can all agree that The Little Mermaid deserves an apology. A decent attempt to remake a classic, and while it probably wasn't better than the original, at least it brought something fresh and interesting to the table, unlike the majority of Disney movies in the last decade.